All right, Izzy Timms. Now I'm talking about the medical society and what medical society is doing in Canada, and how much it's actually costing people. I'm not sure if people are truly aware. Um, People on minimum wage in Canada are making $14 an hour. The corporations are billing each person $85 an hour in compensation premiums. So these compensation premiums are going to WSIB. And this $85 an hour doesn't include your taxes or your employment insurance or your Canada Pension Plan contributions. This is on top of all of that. So you're actually making $99 an hour on minimum wage in Canada, but you can't even afford your rent in most cases because you're not making anywhere near enough money. But these WSIB premiums are going to pay for medical and policing and lawyers and bureaucrats and all these employees that are also unionized, and all of these corporations also have to pay the same compensation premiums. So not only are you paying your own compensation premiums, but you're paying a whole crap load of other people's compensation premiums, as well as all their salaries, as well as all their union dues for organized crime. And these same unions, organized crime, are controlling the policing and the medical society. So ultimately, we're paying an insane amount of money. Let's kind of break this down quick. Um, okay, simple mathematics. If say 15 million people or 10 million people are making $20,000 a year on minimum wage, their masses are bringing in, say, $500 billion, but the compensation premiums are in the neighborhood of $2.5 trillion. So these 10 million people are making 500 billion, but at the same time having to pay $2.5 trillion to these other 5 million people, 6 million people, 7 million people, whatever it is, that are bureaucrats, nurses, doctors, lawyers, and so in essence, all these people that need their coffee in the morning that are going to Tim Hortons aren't willing to pay for it. They're not willing to give up any money. They want their child sitting, their babysitting, their child care services paid for. They're not willing to pay those people. They buy new vehicles every couple of months or every couple of years, so they're not willing to pay mechanics. They're not willing to pay for their homes. They're basically do a little bit of renovation, try to sell their home for twice as much money as they paid for it after a couple of years. Um, Trying to make they're literally driving the cost of society up so far that nobody can ever afford to ever own anything again. And not only are they doing that, but they're addicting people to drugs by force. And at the same time, these drugs are creating complications and side effects. So not only are they creating the addiction, they're creating further disease in order to give themselves further business. We've known this for years with cancer already, where of course chemo causes must cause cancer because it cures cancer. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if radiation is curing cancer, radiation is causing cancer. But the amount of money that the proverbial tit is being sucked off is absolutely insane. Women and the homosexual community fought for all these equal rights and and whatnot. But then they became unionized, and they don't give a shit about equal rights anymore. Let's just give me more. Let's just suck more of everybody else's life away from them. Women wanted to be liberated back in the 70s. I don't know what they call liberation, but um, destroying the very fabric of the rest of society just so you can take vacations in other countries every couple of months might be a bit much. Um, you go, let's say you go to a hospital for emergency. You'll sit in the emergency room for 4 or 6 hours waiting, waiting. One nurse takes your ID, and then you go sit down and wait. Another nurse comes along and takes your blood pressure. Then you go sit down again. Then another nurse comes along and takes your temperature and asks you what's wrong with you. And you go sit down. Then another nurse comes up with that same folder that they've got all this information in now and says, what seems to be the problem? Okay, and then you go sit down, and then another nurse comes up and drags you back into a gurney to sit there and wait for the doctor to show up. So all of this has taken 4 hours and at an immense cost to the people. And still, after 4 to 6 hours of being in an emergency room, you still haven't actually gotten anything accomplished. You're still sitting there bleeding. Who cares, right? And then what's worse is if you only need stitches or nowadays crazy glue, you've sat there for that entire time for nothing. And for them to put 4 threads in you and give you a tetanus shot has now cost 30 grand. I think this goes way past what the Hippocratic Oath even suggests of how bad people are getting fucked. Oh, intercourse with men. I think that if these people ultimately are just going to sit there on their cell phones, send them home with no fucking money. Let's do the basic income across Canada so these people can get their basic income and not have a whole pile of money to sit around. The entire education system that now calls themselves essential services is absolutely 100% not needed across the board. We need food, we need shelter, and we need transportation. Maybe. If we've got food and shelter, we ultimately don't even need transportation. We can stay home. But the socialists part of society, these people that just want to get together and fucking gab all fucking day long, gossip, women, most of the time, homosexuals, the rest of the time, are absolutely invading every cent we have. If something isn't done about this, then ultimately this is going to create so much chaos among the masses that eventually the unthinkable is going to happen. There's not only going to be a revolution, but like always, it's going to end up turning into a war. Now, again, Biden and Harris in the US, uh, Bai's organization and HA's organization is supposed to be running our world. Again, that we already know that Democrats are promoting all of the drug use. They figure they can create peace by creating an entire wasted society that's just laying on their ass doing nothing. At, at what insane cost to the people that actually work for a living? At what insane cost are they going to stop? At what insane cost are they going to see the other side of society? And the reason we refer to them as Nazis and they were referred to as Nazis because they cannot see the rest of society. They can't see anything but their own fat fucking paycheck and their own fat ass that hasn't moved off a chair in 6 months. This has got to stop. You know, women wanting to be liberated. Be liberated. Work for a fucking living.